What is good, everybody? Welcome back to Joint Dropper Sports. I'm your host, Shanti Stewart, and today we're talking about the first round of the college football playoff. Did some of the games exceed your expectations, or did they fall well below? All of that will be discussed and more on today's episode. Let's get it.
Lock my phone, put it back down, let's try it again in the morning, bro.
I don't want it to jeopardize how you feel. You know what I'm saying? Because you ain't saying.
I think we got the news that Tonka is staying. Thank God, finally some good news.
So for those who keep up with the channel, you saw that I posted my expectations and my predictions of the first round matchup. So let's go through those first, and then we'll dig deeper into what we all saw. So to start off, you had James Madison versus Oregon. Oregon won that game 51-34, and I will say, while that game wasn't necessarily competitive, it did meet my expectation level in terms of it was going to be closer than what everyone thought. I said that. That's what it ended up being. Kudos to James Madison, though, for not quitting on that game. Could have very easily laid down, quit fighting, and just let whatever happen. But those boys did continue to fight. They did continue to try to compete. And you just ran up against a better Oregon team. Oregon, one of the best teams in the Big Ten, one of the best teams in the nation, did what they were supposed to do for the majority of it. Dominate the offensive side of the ball, got stops, things happen. But again, the one thing I'll say, and we'll have to continue to look forward to, is that Oregon hasn't played the most complete games. And while they did dominate this game against James Madison for the majority, and it was never in doubt at any point in time in that game, giving up those 34 points, I don't like how that looks. I just don't like the optics of it, because you will see better teams as you progress through these playoffs, and you will see teams that will be able to take advantage of you. You've already lost to Indiana, a team that I didn't think you would lose to coming into the year, even with as good as they've been playing. There will be more teams from the SEC and Big Ten alike that you'll have to see at some point. Will you be able to match them up? Will you be able to execute at a high level consistently? That's the biggest question for me with Oregon moving forward, but I digress. The next matchup, I have Tulane versus Ole Miss. I figured we'd go ahead and get the group of four teams out of the way just to, move past this. Tulane got smacked. They went down they went down to Oxford, Mississippi, and got mollywopped the same way they did the first time during the regular season. Clearly a talent gap. Clearly, you saw an Ole Miss team operating at a high level. Again, this wasn't a game where I thought I didn't think Tulane could hang with Ole Miss regardless of whether Ole Miss came out sloppy or not. I give credit to Ole Miss, though. I think keeping their OC in to be the play caller for the remainder of these playoffs, huge for them. They can still operate the same way they did under Lane Kiffin. I think everything mostly stays the same for them and allows for them to be able to have a great chance of advancing throughout these playoffs. They had a good showing. Not much really to say other than the better team won both of these matchups against James Madison, Oregon, and Tulane versus Ole Miss. The one thing I will say, though, is that the group of four is always going to catch flack for when they don't compete at a high level against the Power Four teams. And that just is what it is. We've seen it for years, and it'll continue to happen. The funny thing about the college football playoff, though, is that regardless of whether the group of four has been in there or not, we've always seen blowout games. Just a couple years ago, or just a few years ago now, Georgia blew out TCU in the national championship game. The worst national championship game I've ever laid eyes on, in my 20-some-odd years of living. I won't say how, see how I ain't give you the actual number. But blowouts continuously happen. I saw Oklahoma get blown out by LSU back in 2019. Nobody had a problem with that. You've seen Clemson blow out Notre Dame. You've seen Clemson blow out Ohio State. Bad football games. So much so that both of those teams scored a grand total of 3 points each. So it's not to say that blowouts don't happen. I think people have a hard time because these teams aren't the brands that you want to watch. They're not Texas. They're not Miami. They're not Notre Dame. They're not the sexy brands that you all fall in love with on a year-in, year-out basis. They're this random team out of Virginia in James Madison and this random school in New Orleans in Tulane that you haven't kept up with all year because you have no real connection to this team or to this program in terms of their history who they have currently. You don't care to see these teams in front of your face. You know, I understand that could be negated because people said the same thing about Boise State last year. It is what it is, but Boise State did earn their way into the playoff. Regardless of whether you are in love with the program or not, whether you feel like they should deserve opportunity to compete, I don't think that any team should be relegated to not having a chance to compete at the highest level. If you play FBS football, you should have a chance to compete at the highest levels of it. Whether it works out or not, give these guys a chance. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think these teams are altering the field that much to where I think we're getting the wrong national champion. And one can say like, hey, look, bro, you know you're downplaying the quality of football by allowing these teams into the space, but the quality of football isn't that high in these playoff games anyway, at least in the first rounds. Whether we go from 12 teams or whether we were at 4, the high quality football doesn't get played until much later, and even the teams that you consider high quality don't always maximize that skill set when it's time to play in the big time games. So next up, we have Texas A&M versus Miami. This was a game I was very proud that I picked the way I did because I picked Miami going into it, and I felt strongly about their defense, and I didn't feel great about Texas A&M and what they've done. Texas A&M played one of the weakest schedules in the SEC, going on to win 11 games, going 11-1. You saw Texas at the end, and the same thing happens every time you see Texas. I thought the talent level of Texas showed you exactly what Texas A&M hasn't done all year. I think it showed you why they were down 27 points to South Carolina. They don't operate at a high level when the competition stakes raise. That's just is what it is for this year's team. Miami, I like their defense all year. Earlier in the year, I was very high on them. I thought they would be neck and neck with Ohio State for competing for a national title. Funny enough, they will get to see that team coming up next. But Miami, to this point, their offense is still very much the same. No sense of rhythm. This can't finish drives. They can't finish some of these drives off. That worries me. That really keeps me from having any real faith that Miami can continue to push further into these playoffs. But you know, there are guys that we have to give kudos to and for their performances and how they came through for their teams. And one of those guys for me is Fletcher, the running back for Miami. He had a big performance today in that game. Mark Fletcher, 17 carries, 172 yards. I thought he should have been given the right to go score it there at the end. But what he did in between the tackles, what he did in terms of breaking that game open, giving Miami big-time drive after big-time drive opportunity to go score it. Obviously, they missed a lot of field goals, a lot of opportunities for them to extend that game and extend that lead. But then again, I look at Malachi Tony as well. He, a kid that has been the heart and soul of that team all season as a true freshman, been the heart and soul, been the guy that's been carrying that offensive unit. Made a big-time mistake, got stripped there in the middle of the field. A&M gets the ball back. Looks like A&M's going to take the momentum to go win this football game. Kudos to that Miami defense, but kudos to Michael Tony's keeping his head in the game, giving him that last chance to go win it. He puts in the game-winning touchdown. Miami now moves on to the second round of the college football playoff. Great game, I thought. Great defense there by Miami. We'll see if that defense can continue to carry them throughout these playoffs. And the last game that we'll discuss, Alabama versus Oklahoma. This game, I did pick Oklahoma to go win it. And for a quarter and maybe for about 18 minutes, I looked right. For the first quarter and about 3 minutes of the second quarter, I looked like I had hit it right on the head. Oklahoma jumps out 17-0. They ran the ball effectively. They got their best players out in space. They won out in space. Bama couldn't make tackles. They applied pressure to Todd Simpson like no other. They had him flustered, had him off kilter, and something is just like, I know Kalen DeBoer isn't Nick Saban, but there have been times so far through his first 2 seasons that there are instances of Nick Saban's like magic and lore that still reigns over this Bama team. It almost felt like watching My Hero Academia and All Might transferring one for all the Deku. Like, hey brother, take this power and go be great with it. That's what it almost feels like. That was a game that makes you fall in love with college football and the insanity that it is. That was a tale of two halves. Not even a tale of two halves, just a tale of a quarter and a half maybe. Bama was able to tie that game up 17-all. By the end of the first half, you started to see big time third down conversion there by Ty Simpson on the first touchdown drive. Threw that ball behind Brooks. Brooks makes a great play. That's what set that up. And then to have a 4th and 2 in the red zone, to not only go for it because you know you need points and you know you need to get touchdowns on the board, to go score on the 4th down play as well changes the entire outlook of the game. Then you have just a myriad of mistakes. And this is why we love college football, because these guys are, remember, you're putting your happiness and faith in the hands of 18 to 20 somethings to play football at a high level. That's what you got to remember. You have a block punt that leads to a Bama score. You also have a pick six that leads to a Bama score. Just a myriad of mistakes by Oklahoma that allows Bama right back in it. Right back in it. And then here was the thing. What happened in that first quarter was that Oklahoma dominated the line of scrimmage. And that's how you win any game. And that's what I expected Oklahoma to do. I thought they would dominate the line of scrimmages, which is why I picked them to go win this football game. But in the second half, it totally flipped. I'm watching John Mateer under duress, under pressure. Shout out to Alabama's defensive coordinator for making the proper adjustments. That Alabama team is dangerous because you know there's potential there for them to put it together. And you just got to win one. And no matter how good or bad I think this Bama team is, they're good enough to win one. They get Indiana in the next round, which isn't a horrible matchup. All I can say is they'll have a chance. Absolutely, they'll have a chance. I won't talk much about the second round games because as of right now, it is December 22nd as of the time of this recording. We have 9 days until the first second round game gets played. So what I will say is this. The teams that have had to wait are at a disadvantage. Because every team that won that first round game, you get a week plus to focus on game planning and resting prior to. For the teams that have been waiting, you got to find a way to keep the juice because you've been on ice for nearly a month. And back to my point in my last video, in one of my previous videos about the scheduling for these playoffs has to change. No more of making sure we play these particular bowl games on January 1st or the 31st. They have to get played in a timely manner to ensure that we get the best product on the field. That's it and that's all. And I will continue to hound that point home until hopefully somebody listens. But with that being said, I'm Shanti Stewart. This has been Gin Dropper Sports. Like and subscribe to the channel, and I'm out.